Okay, with intelligent practice, we want to learn how to study smarter, not necessarily harder. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the study cycle. What we want to do is sharpen our axe. There was a story once upon a time about two woodcutters named Peter and John, and they were often at odds with each other, arguing over who chopped more wood. So one day, they decided to hold a competition to determine the winner. And the rules were simple. Whoever produced the most wood in a day wins. So the next morning, both of them took up their positions in the forest and started chopping away in their fastest possible speed. Now this lasted for an hour before Peter suddenly stopped. When John realized that there was no chopping sound from his opponent's side, he thought, aha! He must be tired already, and he continued to cut down his trees at double the pace. A quarter of an hour passed, and John heard his opponent chopping again, so both of them carried on synchronously. John was starting to feel weary when the chopping from Peter stopped once again. Feeling motivated and smelling victory close by, John continued on with a smile on his face. And this went on the whole day, and every hour Peter would stop chopping for maybe 15 minutes while John kept going on. So when the competition ended, John was absolutely confident that he would take the triumph. He was going to win. But to John's astonishment, Peter had actually cut down more wood. How did this even happen? How could you even chop down more trees than me? He said. I heard you stop working every hour for 15 minutes maybe, exclaimed John. Peter replied, well, it's really simple. Every time I stopped work while you were still chopping down trees, I was sharpening my axe. See, I think in our world today, everybody everywhere seems to be busy. And most people are just too busy doing more and trying to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve that they don't take the necessary time to renew or assess what they're doing to learn and grow, to sharpen the axe. So hopefully today I can teach you how to sharpen your axe with the study cycle. So talking about good strategies, as part of the good strategies, we want to create a study cycle. Now there's lots of things involved with a study cycle, with intelligent practice and attendance and classroom environment and note taking. I'm going to touch on all these. Preview and review, how to be engaged in class, having that effective study session, and to evaluate your progress. So as we know, the intelligence practice formula is grit, right? That's your effort, plus help from others or using resources, plus good strategies equals intelligent practice. So on the good strategies part of the formula is the study cycle. Now there's 5 parts to the study cycle, and I just gave it a little acronym PARSA to kind of help you remember these steps for the future. So these 5 parts are preview, attend, review, study, and assess. The first part is preview. Preview is just looking over the material ahead of time before you get to class. It's basically what we call skimming. You're just glancing over the titles, any headings, chapters, the content that's going to look at in class this week, any vocabulary that may be new to you, length of pages in an article or a book that you may be studying, or just how long the content is for this week. That helps to give you an idea of what you're going to cover, maybe how long it'll take, just the topic basically. And knowing this will help you kind of build up some background knowledge, help bring back to your memory, oh, I remember some information about this in the past, or I know a little bit about it. But either way, it will guide you in taking better notes when you get to class, when you are listening to the lecture, because you kind of have an idea how much you're going to cover. And also, you're more likely to have questions ready to ask while you're in class. The next part of the study cycle, the A, is attend. I think it goes without saying that you should attend all classes. Yes, every single class. Just be there. And when we're talking about attendance, you need to show up, not just coming in, skirting into class right at the time it starts, but 5 to 10 minutes earlier to class. Now, why do you do that? Well, it gives you time to settle in, get your materials ready, your notes ready, okay? Also gets your mind ready. And when you are attending in class, you stay to the end. You don't walk out early. Make sure you've already taken restroom breaks and you're not starving or any of that kind of stuff. You want to stay to the end of the class and actually a few minutes after class. Because when you stay to the end and a few minutes after, don't rush to get out, be the first out of the class. It gives you time to kind of put your materials away and look over them, see if there's anything you might have missed during class while you're there. You can ask the instructor questions. And just a big advantage here, it cuts study time later because you don't have to go back because you missed class. Speaking of the classroom positioning is very important. So knowing the classroom, that classroom environment, to help you be the best that you can be while you're attending is usually sit toward the front and center. It gives you better observation of the instructor, of the materials presented, whether it's lab class, you need to see hands-on action, or you'll need to see the screen. Make sure there's nothing obstructing your view. Also consider your own comfort zone. If you have really long legs and you need to stretch those legs out, you might want to sit maybe toward the end where you can do that. It also helps you if you're sitting front and center, right within eyesight of the instructor. It keeps you alert, right? You're getting more of the action, you're seeing more of the action, and keeps you focused. Normally, distraction areas are corners of the room, the back rows, the further away from the front. So just do yourself a favor and avoid distraction areas from the beginning. Again, while you're in class, you want to be doing some note taking, using an organized and systematic method, whatever is the best method for you. Now, we're going to talk a lot about Cornell Notes in this class, and that's the one that we really emphasize. But your note-taking style should be complete and clear. You can use concept maps, any visuals, webs, and like I said, Cornell Notes, that style, which we get into more thoroughly, and we will be practicing those, are probably your best bet. When you are taking notes, know your goal, like the objective, and write it at the top. What are you trying to learn? What's supposed to be on this page? You know, just a phrase or a topic. Make sure you have your name, the date, so you can reference it back or talk to the instructor about it. Also, course name and section number in case that note paper gets mingled in with some other papers. Now, if you're taking notes on the computer, keep saving those notes as you're working so that you don't lose your notes, and keep those organized too. Include a few summary statements at the end. That's always good. And again, why you want to stay a few minutes after class, maybe just to include your few summary sentences there. Ask questions immediately. If it pops up in your head and you're in class and you're allowed to ask questions, then do that. But don't leave the classroom with a question in your mind. Take notes from the screen, the lecture while the lecture is going on, discussions, group discussions, or demonstrations, and just keep a consistent format to your note taking. That's again why we recommend Cornell Notes. Being engaged while you're attending class. You want to be fully present and alert. Okay, we'll talk about things like making sure you're, not sleepy in class, but and not on these caffeine highs, but you want to be alert in class and engaged, talking, discussing, actively listening while you're thinking and processing this information you're getting. And you're also writing notes. You're asking questions as they come to mind. The next part of the study cycle is the R, which is review. So the preview part and review, those are amazing tips to the study cycle. Review is looking back over your material right after class as soon as possible, immediately. Sometimes just sitting in your seat, staying seated as everybody else is getting up and going out the door, and you're just looking over your notes quickly. Because there might have been a gap or a word you didn't get, and you really need to know that vocabulary word, you can ask your instructor on the spot. But also I'm talking about as soon as you leave class, maybe you can go to the library and just review those notes for 10-15 minutes, or the tutoring center somewhere, just to make sure you've got any gaps covered, or you know where you need to study further when you can do a real good study time. Maybe you need to contact your instructor quickly for any clarification while it's fresh on your mind and your instructor's mind, because they forget too. And if you still have questions, now's the time to seek help. I mean, you've just gotten out of class, you're looking over your notes, and you're like, you know what, I probably need to go ask my buddy about this, or I need to go to the tutoring center and get extra help there. The fourth part of the study cycle, S, is the study session. When we're talking about the study session, we want to create a very effective study session. Again, we want to work smarter, not harder. So you're going to have deliberate strategy and planning. So block this off on your calendar as if it is a class time itself. Maximum is 2 hours. I always recommend your study sessions be 20 to 30 minutes long, no longer. Take a break and then study 20 to 30 minutes more. And you can do that for up to 2 hours. I wouldn't recommend longer than that. You need the 20 to 30 minutes and no more at a time, because you kind of remember the beginning of what you study and the end of what you study. So if you're trying to study in 1 hour block without a break in between, you're going to kind of forget all that middle stuff. Create a study session again as if it's a class, and do this about 4 days a week, and you'll never be behind on any of your work. The rule of thumb is if you're an hour in class, you need 2 hours of outside of class to study, to work, to do those assignments. That's just the rule of thumb. Some classes you don't need that much, some you need more perhaps. But this also would include tutoring time as well. And as I stated previously, you want that study session immediately after class if possible. So again, work 20 to 30 minutes. 20 minutes is what I really like. Study hard. That means no distractions, no cell phones. Take a break, reward yourself. Now check your cell phone or eat your granola bar, get a drink of water, walk around the room, walk around the building, 5 to 10 minute break, and then come back to your study session. When you are in that study session, know your goal. What are you going to do in this study session, this 20 to 30 minutes? Are you going to work on that writing paper, right, that you need for English? Are you going to do the algebra work? And make sure you have a consistent structure of sitting down, getting your paper. I also like going to the same area. If a certain space in the library works well for you, then go there. And then at the end of that 20-30 minutes, look back at what you've done, summarize it in your head, summarize it on paper if you need to. Did you understand it? Did you get it? And ask yourself, did you meet your goal for the study session? Maybe it's only part of a project, but you're going to work on the rest of the project or a certain section of the project in the next study session. And the last part of the study cycle is assess. It's very important to just think about how you are progressing. Evaluate your, what the stuff you're doing. How's it going? Is it going well? Good. Keep doing it. If it's not working for you, if you're not making progress, figure out what the problem area is or seek help and change it up. Try something different. Use resources to explore new study techniques, or maybe a different style of note-taking, or tutoring to help you, for part of your study session. But try new ways and see what happens. But evaluating or assessing your progress is very important so that you know that you're doing well, right? Or if you need to change things up. So quick summary, we're using the intelligent practice formula with its good strategies, and part of the good strategies is the study cycle or PARSA. So just to review a couple of tips: attend all classes, arrive early and stay a few minutes after, sit front and center, be engaged, be active, avoid distractions. If your neighbor's on their smartphone, and that's going to be distracting to you, so you want to be away from those areas. Take focused notes, create consistent, structured study sessions, and always evaluate your progress. Remember, it's not exactly the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. So go out there and sharpen that axe.